You may have heard me talk about such ideas as anchoring in negotiation and also going extreme in terms of expectations or demands. Well, there's a current high-profile example which highlights this really nicely. Anchoring is where one party in a negotiation manages to get their position or their number established as the reference point in the negotiation. They get the other party reacting to their position, to their number. And there are a number of ways that you can get your position anchored in a negotiation. You can go first. It's like a stake in the ground. You can go a bit more extreme, so inflate your numbers, perhaps if you're selling, or reduce them greatly if you're buying, often referred to as highballing or lowballing. Now, I'm sure you will have seen that recently Donald Trump has stated that he intends to sue the BBC for $1 billion. And in fact, last week he increased the potential to $5 billion. And this video is not to consider the rights and wrongs, the merits or otherwise of this case. I'll leave that to others. But the danger, the risk for the BBC is that they could get anchored to these perhaps ludicrously high numbers. Indeed, some commentators have been talking in these terms. I've heard people saying things like, well, $1 billion, this is 15% or so of the BBC's total annual revenues. It presents almost an existential threat to the BBC. Well, it's worth bearing in mind a little bit of context here. In October 2024, Trump sued another media outlet, CBS, who own Paramount, for $10 billion, and indeed this increased to $20 billion. But in the end, CBS paid Trump $16 million. And earlier in 2024, in a similar but unconnected case, ABC paid Trump $15 million. So, for example, in the BBC case, if the BBC were to pay $15 million to Trump, that represents 0.0025%, roughly, of the BBC's total annual revenue. And that number seems very small when you compare it to $1 billion or more. So the BBC may, as they are stating, they may choose to not pay, to fight, because they believe his case has no merit, in which case they may end up owing nothing. But if they were to make him an offer, it should not be in relation to the size of his claim. They should not get anchored to that number, that position. For example, they could offer him $100,000 for his favourite charity. So in your negotiations, at the very least, don't get anchored to their numbers. Don't let their proposals, their positions shape your thinking. And instead, you want to get your position anchored. Get them reacting to your numbers, your proposals. It will give you way more control in the negotiation. Tell me what you think in the comments.